Welcome. To start off, we'll delve into 3 key points: product description, its main features, and specifications. Remember that Smart Dispatch Plus and Smart Dispatch 1 are newer versions of a product that has evolved over time. A few years ago, there was Smart Dispatch, which ceased to be marketed a couple of years ago. The new version, Smart Dispatch Plus, offers a broader range of features. Previously, Smart Dispatch 1 provided a more complex deployment and hence a higher cost. However, this version allowed us to access various technologies, from conventional DMR radios to more advanced Tetra systems. Smart Dispatch Plus is highly flexible software, especially designed for mission-critical solutions like Tetra 2. With this software, we can work with a variety of configurations, from conventional DMR to integrating HM786 mobile radios via IP, allowing us to monitor the location of our equipment directly from the vehicle. Furthermore, Smart Dispatch Plus is compatible with technologies such as XPT and IPAC 200. With XPT, we can efficiently manage a single site, while with IPAC 200, we can implement emerging solutions that enable greater coverage by interconnecting repeaters in a mesh network. A standout feature of Smart Dispatch Plus is its all-in-one implementation capability, where the entire system runs on a single PC. This includes 3 software bases: server, gateway, and client. This flexibility allows us to tailor the configuration according to our needs, whether running all components on a single PC or distributing them across different devices according to user preference. In summary, Smart Dispatch Plus represents a significant advancement in dispatch technology, offering a comprehensive and adaptable solution for various communication needs in critical environments. Let's continue exploring the possibilities offered by this exciting product. First and foremost, I'd like to address how we've progressed over the past few years. We've moved from marketing previous versions of this product to being more information-rich thanks to this new solution. This enhancement allows us to work in 3 different schemes: conventional DMR, single-site XPT, and emergent communications with IPAC 200. Additionally, it's worth noting that we can install everything on a single PC or distribute each of the 3 modules across different devices. The advantages of Smart Dispatch Plus are remarkable. It utilizes a client-server architecture and is compatible with both Windows 10 and Windows 11. As for the server, it can run on Server 2016 or even on Server 2019. These updates are crucial for fully leveraging Smart Dispatch Plus's capabilities compared to previous versions. Previously, our network only supported conventional DMR, but now this software can handle conventional DMR, single-site XPT, and emergent communications with IPAC 200. Another significant advancement is how we connect to mobile stations. Previously, it was done through the accessories port of the MD786. But now, with Smart Dispatch Plus, we can connect them via IP. This improvement streamlines the process and provides a better user experience. Additionally, we've upgraded the database from SQL Server 2008 to PostGIS 14.6, giving us unlimited capacity for the database. In terms of features that have been removed, there was previously a small implementation with Patrol in the previous version of Smart Dispatch, but in the new version, this function is no longer available. However, we hope to address this issue in future updates. In summary, Smart Dispatch Plus offers a flexible implementation with a modular design. It can be installed all on a single PC or distributed across different devices as needed. This versatility, combined with improvements in connecting to mobile stations and an updated database, makes Smart Dispatch Plus a powerful choice for multi-level dispatch needs. I want to emphasize that Smart Dispatch Plus offers flexibility in role assignment, meaning dispatchers don't necessarily have to have administrator privileges. For instance, I can create a dispatcher to whom I provide a username and password and limit them to only view a specific group or particular section of my network. Additionally, I can restrict certain functions so they cannot perform them, even if they are implemented by default in Smart Dispatch Plus. One of the key advantages is its ease of use. The graphical user interface is very intuitive and similar to the previous Smart Dispatch, making operations straightforward for those already familiar with it. Currently, it's available in multiple languages, including Chinese and English, with the Spanish version being tested. I estimate that by the end of the first quarter of 2024, the Spanish version will be available without any issues. Moreover, Smart Dispatch Plus supports RTL inputs and automatic adjustments for daylight saving time, allowing you to change the date and time according to the time zone you're in. This is useful for those who need to adapt to different schedules, such as at the Tijuana border in Mexico. Another highlight are the services it offers, such as voice communication and text messaging. With Smart Dispatch Plus, you don't need an additional radio to communicate with your colleagues or teams. From the PC, you can make dispatches, talk, listen, and manage the radio network. As for text messaging, you can send plain text messages or attach photos and multimedia files to individual teams, groups, or multiple groups. It also features a GPS location service, allowing you to track the location of your teams and access a location history for later reference. The availability of this GPS location service for queries will depend on the server or equipment you're using to manage Smart Dispatch Plus. So it's important to consider that if we're going to put all of Smart Dispatch Plus on a single PC, this PC needs to have good characteristics and be functional both in memory and capacity. This is closely related to the number of devices we'll have, both in terms of location and system registration in Smart Dispatch Plus. This naturally leads us to the radio management and control that this software provides, enabling us to subsequently analyze location tests, gather evidence from messages and calls, and more. All of this control and radio management is provided by Smart Dispatch Plus, which is an integrated platform where we can also have some telemetry and the ability to perform over-the-air programming through an additional module called OTAP. Moving on to the system architecture, as I mentioned, there are three modules: the server module, the client module, and the gateway module. The server hosts the database and is the brains behind the entire software. The client displays the graphics and manages who connects, while the gateway acts as the interface between the radios and the system. These three modules are necessary for our Smart Dispatch Plus system to function properly. Once installed, we just need to configure them, and our system will be ready to go. Here are some examples of typical topologies, like the scenario with 1 or 2 MR repeaters. In this case, we have our client, server, and gateway connected by IP through a LAN or WAN. If we have 2 repeaters, we can connect them by IP, with one as the master and the other as the slave. Information is transmitted between them, and the slave repeater sends its data to the master for processing. In turn, the master connects with the gateway to facilitate that communication interface. The data is then sent to the server and stored in the SQL database. Once the client connects to the server, it begins to view that information. It's a very simple topology that allows for easy administration of our Smart Dispatch Plus system. In the lower part, there's a connection to an XPT system. Remember that this XPT system can have up to 8 voice channels and 8 data channels, enabling a single-site XPT system to be connected via the gateway. From there, all the information from the XPT system can also be accessed in Smart Dispatch Plus. It's important to emphasize that this system is only for a single-site XPT. For multi-site, you need to migrate to Smart One, as Smart Dispatch Plus doesn't support multi-site XPT implementation. Moving on to other information. In Scenario 3, we can also interconnect an HM786 mobile radio. This allows for connection to the gateway through the HM786's IP port, thereby receiving information from the field equipment. The HM786 can be connected via a repeater to utilize the repeater's frequencies as an interface for a system in a DM repeater. Or it can be connected in direct mode for radios to report directly to Smart Dispatch on a live channel. This is a simple way to implement Smart Dispatch when it's set in direct mode. Lastly, I mentioned that Smart Dispatch Plus also supports the MD786 radio. However, connecting it is not as straightforward as it seems. You need a specific version of the MD786, a specific cable to connect it to the gateway, and the gateway must have the necessary conditions to connect this audio, as the cable has an audio connector for the speaker input. Here's the revised version for readability. A 3.5mm audio output cable, serving as the microphone in this case, requires our PC to have separate audio ports for the speaker and microphone. Unfortunately, nowadays, PCs come with a single 3.5mm connector, known as a stereo plug, integrating both the speaker and microphone. Therefore, additional adaptations are needed. I mean that we might have to use certain conditions for it to work correctly. It's not just plug and play where everything functions instantly. Therefore, it's necessary to take one's time, especially for this implementation. I reiterate this because sometimes its complexity is underestimated. Sometimes it may seem so easy that we think, I'll do it quickly in the morning and it should work. Fortunately, sometimes this happens, but other times, it doesn't. Each PC where Smart Dispatch Plus or any other software is installed has different characteristics, which may require updates, specific drivers, or may not be compatible with the database. That's why I recommend taking your time to conduct thorough testing for at least a day, ideally 2, to ensure the success of the implementation. It's crucial to perform these tests due to the variations that may exist in PCs, such as different versions of Windows, pending updates, among other aspects. Here we have a mixed network of connections between servers and gateways. For instance, the server is on one PC, and the clients connect locally and remotely. These clients must have access to the server via some network medium, but they must be able to see the server's IP address to connect. On the other hand, we have the gateways. I can have one in Mexico City, another in Acapulco, and another in Monterrey. I can interconnect these 3 gateways with the server, and the dispatchers can view all or some of them, depending on the access profiles assigned to them. This becomes a networking issue for connections between the client, server, and gateway. Therefore, it depends on what you're implementing to find the most suitable solution for your client. This is the network topology of a mixed network. Let's talk about IPAC Dispatch. In our setup at Unicenter, we have 3 screens: a rugged computer with an octa-core i7 processor and at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. This allows us to deploy Smart Plus and connect it to an IPAC 200 via an IP address. Physically, we connect to the IPAC 200 first, and then the CPACs interconnect via RF, forming a mesh network. With this mesh network generated by the 4 repeaters in this example, any radio can be in any of the 4 coverage areas generated, transmitting its voice from there. If we review the GPS part, all data reaches the IPAC connected to the Smart Dispatch Plus, allowing us to visualize the location on the display, identify who is speaking, make private, group calls, and more through the functions available in the Smart Dispatch Plus, which we can generate through the CPAC 200, 20-watt emerging repeaters that operate on a single frequency and interconnect with each other. For those who are not familiar with the IPAC 200, they are 20 watts repeaters that work on a single frequency in simplex mode, interconnecting with each other to generate various coverage zones and form a large coverage area with multiple IPAC units. Now let's move on to the software features. Regarding voice, we have 3 types of calls: private, group, and general. We also have telephone access. Our repeaters, including the advanced HR1066, have internal telephone access, while for the standard HR1066, we would need to set up an IP switch. Additionally, we have recording functions. Currently, this module is offered to customers who purchase Smart Dispatch Plus, but later it will be an additional option with a cost. However, the first users of Smart Dispatch Plus have the advantage of receiving this recording function included in their license. At the end of the year, this is how it will be. Perhaps it will change starting in January, but I want to mention that the recording feature will be an available option. Now let's talk about intercommunication between dispatchers. This allows us, in our system, if we have 2 or 4 TR dispatchers, to communicate with each other as if using a radio from the system through the audio link. With the audio link, I can establish communication between private radios and groups other than theirs. For example, if I have multiple groups, I can select someone from another group and set up an audio link so that person can speak with a different group than theirs. That's one of the features offered by Smart Dispatch Plus. Regarding data, we can see if a device is online or offline. If it's online, it will appear in blue, and if it's offline, in gray. We can also send short messages in real time and attach simple photos for devices with multimedia capabilities. Additionally, we have pre-programmed messages and the ability to generate reports. Email access is another feature where we configure our ID to be linked to an email account. This account must be plain text for the radio to interpret it. In other words, incoming mail is converted into a message and sent to the radio, which responds and performs verification between the ID and the email. Then, it can send a response to the email account via a plain text message. It's important to note that it's not multimedia email, but plain text, similar to messages in a DMR. We also have an alert call feature. For DMR, an alert call means it will continue to ring until the user answers it. For example, if I leave the radio on my desk all day, it will continue to ring until someone answers it. Regarding GPS, we can track real-time location and access tracking history. Here's the revised version. In terms of IPAC dispatching, we have it set up nicely in Unicenter with 3 screens, a rugged computer with at least an i7 processor and 16 gigabytes of RAM. This allows for the deployment of Smart Dispatch Plus, which I'll connect to an IPAC 200 via an IP connection. Physically, I connect it to the first IPAC 200, and then the CPACs interconnect via RF, creating a mesh network. From this network, in this example with 4 repeaters, any radio can access any of the 4 coverage areas and transmit its voice. If I'm checking the GPS part, all that data comes to the IPAC connected to Smart Dispatch Plus, and then I can see the GPS display, listen to conversations, initiate private calls, and more. The Smart Dispatch Plus also supports multiple maps, such as online and offline Google Maps and other formats, which is useful when internet access is limited. Users can choose which map they want to use depending on the situation. The applications include LOAP, a paid application that allows for IDE programming, and TE, which enables programming laptops or mobile devices over the air via a repeater or a direct channel. Additionally, there's the Telem module, which requires specific features to interface with the accessory ports of radios for measurement and control purposes. This isn't a plug-and-play scenario. It requires development and consideration of the necessary components and configurations. For basic telemetry, we configure mobile equipment with up to 3 input and output ports, set levels, and start monitoring. However, more components are needed for practical applications, such as relays for activating devices like lights. Well, I recommend that you gradually implement telemetry as you need it, either with JITR's engineers or your own wholesaler who are already working on these solutions hand in hand with Hive. Okay, regarding security, we also have encryption. We can encrypt using the self-vocoder. Remember, there are radios with certain vocoders or options to have specific vocoders. When encrypting, we only need to use the self-P vocoder. We have administrative authority, we can enable or disable a radio, perform remote monitoring, and enable lone worker mode. So all these options allow for seamless integration within the Smart Dispatch Plus system. Now, about encryption. Remember, we have encryption for JITR, and there's also AES 256 encryption, which incurs a cost. In terms of alarms, we have emergency alarms. Activating the orange button on the radios triggers the emergency alert in our software. We also have geofence alarms, where we define a polygon on a map and set conditions for entry or exit. If someone enters or exits depending on our configuration, this area, the software alerts us. This is geofencing alarm functionality. We also have low-speed alarms. We can set parameters so that if a unit exceeds 90 km per hour, for example, it triggers an alert, or if it falls below 10 km per hour, it also alerts us. The portable or mobile unit must have GPS to provide speed references and trigger alarms in our Smart Dispatch Plus software. Regarding the database, we can generate backups, import or export data to and from Excel. This feature allows for seamless integration of equipment. For instance, if I need to register 30, 50, or 100 units, I can input their basic parameters into an Excel format and import them into the system. This eliminates the need for manual input, although I may need to adjust some parameters, such as encryption settings or pre-programmed text messages. But the basic information can be mass imported or exported using an Excel format, streamlining the process of integrating multiple radios into the system. Okay, so in broad strokes, this covers the Smart Dispatch Plus part. Regarding voice service, it's quite straightforward. You'll see our icon, as you do on the right-hand side. You simply hit PTT from your PC, as mentioned earlier, and your PC becomes a radio. You can then communicate with any radio in your system, a specific group, use the audio link feature, or even interact with a dispatcher. You have options like private calls, group calls, calls to everyone, and so on. This outlines the application and how I'll be developing it. It allows me to track channels, call durations, who called whom, whether it was a private, group, or general call, thus giving me a better grasp on system administration. Now on to AudioLink. As mentioned, it's essentially an audio patch that enables cross-system calls. For instance, if I connect an analog system through a repeater to a digital system, I can establish communication between an analog user and a digital group, or vice versa. Though they're not part of the same group in either system, AudioLink facilitates this through software. Then we have the IPBX repeater telephony. As I mentioned, all our repeaters support the ZIP protocol, and the HR1066 Advanced repeater comes with an integrated IPBX. This simplifies things, but if not, an external IPBX would be needed for telephony support. Moving on to short messages. These are pre-programmed messages in the equipment, timed messages, real-time messages if you have a keyboard. It can even resemble instant messaging, allowing interaction with other units in your system. Message recovery includes a history feature, providing a reference for sent and received messages, along with involved parties, timestamps, etc., for better message administration. Lastly, gateway integration with email. Here, it's primarily about integrating the gateway with email. It allows for communication between the system and email accounts, enabling functions like sending messages via email and receiving emails as messages within the system. Now, moving on to networking aspects, we need to have a POP3 server and an SMTP server to interconnect with an email account. The only task here is to link a radio's ID with an email account. So when a message arrives at that email account, it's linked to the radio's ID, and then the message is sent in text format to the radio. Once the radio responds, it goes back to the POP server, which interacts again with the ID and the account number. Then, the POP server sends the email through the ID associated with the received message to the corresponding email account. That's how it functions. However, it requires additional infrastructure, and of course, setting up this context regarding configuration is essential. Now, onto the GPS part. As you're already familiar with, we have icons for various purposes, which are updated periodically. These icons can represent different figures like trucks, cars, bicycles, people, and various vehicles. We have about 5 or 6 icon options to display on your map. We can track the locations, so whenever it reports every 30 seconds, for instance, it maps the current location along with the previous ones we've been tracking. This provides a line of locations over a certain time period. It also generates a playback history, meaning if I search for a user and request their location from yesterday between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., for example, once it finds the data, I hit play, and then it shows me on the map the routes they followed. Another important feature is the ability to call from the radio via the map. I simply locate the icon, right-click, select the call option, hit PTT, and then I can have a private call with that device. Regarding map options, as I mentioned, we have online maps, offline maps, OpenStreetMap, and others. Even if it's not specified in the specifications, if you inform us that you have a specific map and want to see if it's compatible, our engineers will try to integrate it with our Smart Dispatch Plus system so that you have a good range of options. Regarding GPS functionalities, we have georeferencing, which is quite familiar to you. You can set up a geofence on the map, specifying whether it's an entry or exit condition. Once that condition is met, you receive an alert. We also have high and low speed alarms, as I mentioned earlier. We can combine both speed and geofence alarms, so whichever happens first, or if both happen, it will trigger emergencies. As for Smart Dispatch Plus, we can perform remote monitoring. Once the device is powered on, I can activate the microphone remotely to listen to the surroundings and receive audio from the environment through the microphone. We can also have the lone worker feature. Once activated, if it doesn't meet the condition or the predefined time in the settings, it will trigger an alarm. We have the emergency alarm, represented by the orange button that most of our radios have. When pressed, it triggers an alarm in our monitoring system, indicated by a red alert icon. From there, actions can be taken such as activating the microphone or updating the location. I can establish an emergency protocol and enable or disable the radio from the PC. So if a radio gets lost, I can simply disable it. If I find it later, I can re-enable it without any issues. If it remains lost, being disabled means it can't receive or transmit signals. Even if it's lost, I can still perform remote monitoring if it's turned on and receive GPS location despite being disabled. These conditions can still be utilized even if the device is disabled because only the reception and transmission parts are removed from my system. Moving on, we have work orders, which is an application for work orders. These are simply identified by IDs or numbers to assign specific messages. It's a quick way to communicate with radios equipped with screens and keyboards so that users can work with work order systems via messaging. They don't have to rely solely on voice recording. Instead, they can use keys or numbers to receive, initiate, and confirm work instructions. These are codes used exclusively for work orders, which will vary depending on the conditions agreed upon with the client, ensuring a more efficient work order system than relying solely on voice commands. Regarding the functions available on the IPAC, we have group calling, which also includes voice messaging and radio and IPAC location. We can stun and revive radios, and we have a network topology supervision feature that provides GPS-based location. This IPAC is somewhat limited in functions, but it covers the basics like call types, messaging, GPS, radio activation, deactivation, and equipment location monitoring, including mobile units or remote 20-watt mobile repeaters. They can also be in motion, and I can be checking their location. Finally, let's review the conditions of this software. Obviously, it tells me about licenses. This software can have a maximum of 32 clients connected at once with all their licenses. Remember that the basic system consists of one client, one gateway, one server, one repeater, and 25 monitored radios or users. That's the most basic package. And from there, I can have more client licenses, more gateway licenses, or more licenses for monitored radios, depending on how I customize it for my equipment. So the most basic setup, as I mentioned, is one client, one gateway, one server, one repeater, and 25 radios that I can monitor. Regarding the repeater license, it includes either a repeater or 2 mobile radios. I can use one of these options, but not both simultaneously. If I use a mobile radio, I can't use the repeater, and vice versa. The reason for 2 mobiles is because if I have a repeater, I have 2 slots available in DMR. If I use a mobile, I only have 1 slot available, so I would need another mobile for the second slot. Hence, it's the equivalent of 1 repeater or 2 mobiles. Again, based on this, we have a maximum of 32 clients, a maximum of 24 gateways, and a maximum of 32 voice channels, which corresponds to the number of repeaters when everything is on a single server. The maximum access is for 16 repeaters per server, which means 32 voice channels. Remember, each repeater has 2 slots, providing 2 voice channels. Additionally, on one server, you can have access to 4 dispatch mobile radios. This means that when using mobile radios for dispatching, the maximum number drastically reduces to 4. So again, this is a tailored solution. It needs planning and refinement with your wholesalers and us, Hytera. If you have any opportunities or questions, please let us know so we can assist you with the configuration. Regarding the operating system, it can be Windows 7, Windows 10, or Windows 11. If you're using Windows Server for a server with all the modules, it can be Server 2012, Server 2016, or Server 2019. Just remember, if you're using a server, the client should not be installed there, because servers typically don't have speakers or microphones. It's recommended to install the client on a PC connected to the server. I recommend a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM and a bandwidth of at least 120 kilobit per second per voice channel, which is equivalent to a VoIP call, 56 kilobit per sec for outgoing, and 56 kilobits for incoming. So in total, for one voice channel, it would be 120 kilobits, which may seem low now, but it's enough for a smooth operation. On the one hand, access to that part is restricted, and the database they will use is PostGS 14.6, which is included in the software provided for the installation of the XP system. The Smart Dispatch Plus system is to be considered. Okay, consider only admits XPT single site, yes, only single site. It does not accept multi-site. End-to-end encryption is only available for the SEL voice encoder. Remember that, and the patrol function is not available for Smart Dispatch Plus. Obviously, the API is also not available because it is Jader's proprietary software, so we cannot make the app's parts public. Considering these 4 points, well, that would conclude the Smart Dispatch Plus part. Okay, we also have some demos available. The demo is for 60 days. It includes 1 gateway, 1 server, 1 client, and only 5 radios. Once your client tests it, if they decide to purchase it, we will send them their license to purchase, and that same software will be activated with a real license, allowing them to work with up to 25 clients. So that's Smart Dispatch Plus from my side. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being with us. Just a reminder, this year, 2023, Jader celebrates its 30th anniversary worldwide since it was founded. I thank you very much for your time, and well, Mauricio will be available here in case we have anything else, and if not, he will also send you this material by email. Okay, Felipe, thank you very much. I have a couple of questions here. They ask us, how many can be interconnected? You can interconnect up to 20 packs, is that correct? And the second question is, does the IP200 work on the same frequency, or should they be on different frequencies? No, the IPAC works on the same frequency. All the CS involved in that area must have the same programmed frequency. And they, in that frequency plus 12.5, create the connection frequency between the devices. So in reality, I only use 1 frequency. All the radios there also have the same frequency, and the only condition in this case for the IPAC is that the radios must have pseudo-trunking on simple frequencies like FCR SFR. Okay, if I transmit in slot 1, the equipment receives and retransmits in slot number 2 on the same frequency. Then the radios must be able to have pseudo-trunking so that they can alternate one slot with the other, and the frequency is the same frequency in S. Great. So that's all from me, Felipe. Again, I thank all the attendees, and I remind you that you can visit our website, jera.com, where you can also ask us questions if you haven't done so through these channels. Let's see another guest's comment, and, well, that would be it from me. Felipe, thank you very much. Perfect, thank you very much, Mauricio. And thanks to everyone. Thanks for your time. We are also in touch with your wholesalers. Please don't forget to contact them for these issues. Fortunately, we are already implementing Smart Dispatch Plus, and we already have some installed with several clients. And well, it's giving them good results. Thank you very much for your time. See you next time. Take care and stay well. See you later. This was translated by Voxer with ChatGTP, requested by a subscriber from Pakistan named Mohammed Sohail Rana.